Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Still trying to figure out why so many on Wall Street hate annuities? Well, stay tuned as we share with you part 3 of why savers love annuities, and you should too.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the Worry-Free Retirement, with your host, nationally recognized retirement specialist and 4-time author, Tony Walker.
For the past several weeks, we have covered in great length on this show the reason many of the folks on Wall Street tend to hate annuities. And after personally working in the trenches and being one of those few financial advisors who understands and works on both sides of the aisle, that would be the world of Wall Street and the world of annuities, I can tell you why this is. It's because those on Wall Street are not savers, but rather investors and speculators. And therein lies the problem and the reason you cannot find anything good about annuities. You're looking and listening to the people who don't like what you do. Advisors and financial entertainers who don't have the same makeup as you do and do not understand how hard you have worked to save the money you have saved. Which is why today, as a saver myself, I'm going to share with you the most important attributes of annuities that no other investment can offer, something my granddad enjoyed for his lifetime, a guaranteed income that he could never outlive, something he called mailbox money. So let's get started with why I love annuities and you should too, part 3. Well, welcome folks to the Worry-Free Retirement, and yes, I am that little man in the sweater vest, the annuity king himself, retirement planning specialist and fiduciary, Tony Walker. Before we get started, why I love annuities and you should too, part 3, let me introduce to you in the Worry-Free Studios here on this beautiful morning, November 1st, 2022, America's favorite financial sidekick, Mr. Aaron Orander. Good morning, Aaron.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Well, I'm doing well. I kind of caught you off guard, didn't I, with this part 3 business? I think we had kind of felt like we wrapped it up, and then I was hinting about part 3. Were you okay with this today?
Well, of course, yeah. There's a lot to cover. There's a lot to go over.
Well, and I think you're right. And I think what happened was, and folks, first of all, let me say this. We are registered investment advisors. We're fiduciaries. So certainly we do a lot of things besides annuities. But we have to kind of emphasize that annuities are a huge part of what we do at Tony Walker Financial. And thus, when we get into the subject matter of annuities, especially, again, as we record this show right before an election, with the market bouncing all over the place and all of this uncertainty, I can assure you, if you haven't heard anything about an annuity yet, you will. That's because when times get tough, annuities tend to creep out from all over the place because of their safety and security. So I think it's very important, regardless whether you even own an annuity, that you really stay tuned, because today I'm going to get into the pros and cons of something I call mailbox money, and why my granddad loved mailbox money, which is really what an annuity is, and why Wall Street, and yes, even the banks, cannot offer something called mailbox money. So I think it would be good to do this, Aaron. I've actually, I've defined annuity several different ways, different times over the years. You've heard me, and it kind of is a moving target because there's a lot of different annuities out there, and we're going to get into that more later. But let me take a stab, basically, at what I think an annuity is. So here goes, folks, because people ask this all the time. What's an annuity? All right. First of all, an annuity is a contract between you're called the annuitant if you give money to an insurance company, okay? So it's a contract between you, the annuitant, and the insurance company, that's the only people that can issue annuities, that issues this annuity contract. And what it does, that contract says in writing, here's what it says, especially if we're talking about mailbox money. See if you like the sound of this, Aaron, because I know you're a saver. Aaron Orander, if you put money with us, let's say it's Mutual of Nairobi Insurance Company or whatever, this contract says whenever you want income, all right? We're going to pay you an income. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be enough money. I'm just saying whatever the contract says, whether it's $100 a month or $10,000 a month, whatever that contract specifies based on the amount of money you invest in the insurance contract, if they say, Aaron, we guarantee you we're going to pay you monthly income for as long as you live, what's your reaction to that?
Hey, sign me up as long as I live, but I got a question. How do you know how long I'm going to live?
And that is...
Do you know something I don't know? Do you have a crystal ball in the back there? What's going on?
I'm afraid to tell you, Aaron, yeah, and it's not going to be a very long life. Sorry, partner. Okay.
We'll pay you for 5 months.
Yeah. And that's, I hadn't planned on getting into that, but that's a good question because people do wonder about that. It's almost in disbelief. It's like, wait a minute. How can anybody guarantee me an income forever? Because like you said, Aaron, I mean, you could live. I had a young lady that came in the other day that just lost her mother, and her mother was 105, just passed away. I mean, I have another client whose parents several years ago both passed. Both parents, his parents, this is wild, died at the age, I think it was 102 and 103. They both lived at past 100.
Okay.
So you're right. So you have to sit there and say, well, wait a minute, insurance company's got a lot of money, but they ain't got that much money. How can they afford to pay me guaranteed an income that'll last as long as I do when they don't know how long I'm going to live? Well, right now, in fact, Aaron, I'm working on this project. You've heard me talk about the project I'm working on for this particular annuity I'm building out. And I've contracted with actuaries. So these actuaries' job is to study what's called mortality, how long people live. And while they can't tell you, nor can they tell the insurance companies they're working for, how long one person might live, listen closely, Aaron, they can tell you with almost exact science, if they have a large pool of people, how many people in that pool are going to die this year, how many will die the next year, and so forth.
Gotcha.
Okay, so that's called the law of large numbers, and it allows the insurance company to fairly scientifically estimate these payments. So they don't know who's going to die and who's going to live, but they know out of a large pool of people who will in terms of that number. So it's really important to understand that insurance companies base a lot of this on science. It's not guesswork. It's not based on the stock market and what it might do. It's based on science, which is why I call annuities and this prospect of setting up this mailbox something I call sleep insurance.
Sleep insurance!
And all that sleep insurance means is, Aaron, if you go to bed at night, and let's say you wake up tomorrow and the Dow and the S&P is crashed, assuming you have a fixed annuity, this fixed annuity is not going to go down in value. Does that make sense? It's going to last as long as you do. It is not affected by stock market and interest rate swings. So with this mailbox money, here's my concern though, folks. A lot of you come to me, you've already purchased annuities, you're thinking about buying an annuity, you're hearing more and more about all these attributes of annuities, this ability to not outlive your income that only annuities can provide. Many of you are being oversold on something called an income rider. So when I come back, we're going to talk about the two forms of mailbox money, the traditional annuities, that what we call annuitization and how they can provide lifetime income, and the second type of annuity I call a modern day annuity, which uses something called an income rider. So good stuff coming your way. I'm Tony Walker along with Aaron Orander. You're listening to the Worry-Free Retirement. We'll be right back.
Have yourself a merry little Christmas.
Worry-Free Music presents the greatest collection of Christmas covers ever assembled.
It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Hey!
Tony Walker's A Humdinger Christmas. 486 timeless classics across 6 digitally remastered 8-track tapes.
Happy holidays.
Every song fills your home with holiday magic.
Sing ding-a-ding, ring ding-a-ding, ding ding-a-ding, dong ding-a-ding, ring ding-a-ding, ding ding-a-ding, ring ding-a-ding, ring ding-a-ding.
Don't miss this opportunity to receive Tony Walker's A Humdinger Christmas, the perfect way to celebrate the joy of this holiday season.
Dashing through the snow, hey, and one-horse open sleigh, yeah.
Only $685 plus $3 shipping and handling. Order yours today.
8-track tape player not included. Offer void where prohibited.
And from all of us at Tony Walker Financial, have a Merry Christmas.
Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. And Aaron, I know you used to, I don't do seminars anymore, but remember all those educational seminars I did? I did hundreds of those things.
You did.
You usually came and filmed. And, well, whenever I did talk about annuities, which came up a lot, do you remember the one, I'd always take questions. Remember how I always took questions at the end? What was the most common question? I would almost say it was a question, but a little bit of a misconception that people always asked about annuities. And it was usually more of a negative connotation. What was that one question?
Probably the most common question that I remember people saying about annuities is it revolved around death. They would say things like, well, what happens to this annuity when I die? Do my kids get it or whatever? Or the flip of that, there might be people that would say, my dad or my grandfather had an annuity, and by the time he died, there was nothing left in it. It was gone. It was done with. So that just the whole idea of like annuities and death and how does that all kind of go together is what I remember most people asking about.
That's very good, and I would agree with you. Of all the questions I ever had of annuities, and to this day I still have those. People will come in and we're talking about game plans and retirement planning, and I'll say, okay, we got your Schwab here and we've got your investments and income and Social Security, and then we're going to put in this annuity, and this annuity is going to do this and that, and then they'll go, wait a minute. What happens? They always ask you, what happens to that annuity when I die? So let's talk about that a minute, and let me tell you why I think people still think, and in many cases there won't be anything left. We'll talk about that in a minute, but why that just is a carte blanche assumption that if I put my money in annuity and die, there's nothing left, which is in most cases absolutely false. Okay, so where does that notion come from? Well, let's talk about mailbox money, and there's basically two forms of mailbox money provided by annuities. There's something called annuitization, talk about that in a second, and then there's the modern day annuities, which we refer to as income riders. These riders are attached to the annuity. Again, back in the early 90s and below that time, there wasn't any such thing as an income rider. So let's walk through this. So I'll use the example of my granddad's pension, Aaron. So he had a pension, which is really all that is an annuity. So with pensions, whenever you set up a pension, you can only have one survivor. So let's imagine you and Jessica, and you have this pension or an annuity, and you say, okay, I'm ready to take my income. This would be the same for teachers. Teachers' retirement works this way. Okay, well, Aaron, we'll pay you X amount for the rest of your life, and when you die, there's nothing left. And you might say, well, that's no good. What's Jessica get? Oh, you mean you want something for Jessica when you die? Right? Let's say that's, okay. Well, that's fine, Aaron, but we're not going to pay you, let's say, $2,000 a month. We're only going to pay you $1,500 a month. No, why would we only pay you $1,500 if we got to pay Jessica something?
Well, because you're taking money out of that to make sure she's got something.
There you go. It's like life insurance, really, is what it's like. So yeah, now all of a sudden, if I'm an insurance company, I've got two people. So then let's say you say, yeah, I want Jessica covered too. So that's called a joint and survivor annuity. So it's joint, right? If you die, you've annuitized it, she's going to get it for the rest of her life. But what if she only lives 2 more years and then she dies? Guess what your kids would get then?
They get nothing.
There you go.
It's all there, black and white, clear as crystal. You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
So that's called annuitization. And you can take any annuity, folks, and we can show you how this works. And at some point in time, you can what's called annuitize it. You could go to the insurance company. The actuaries will calculate this for you. You could annuitize it just for your lifetime. You could annuitize it for 10 years certain, 20 years certain. You could provide a survivor benefit. Many of you have pensions now. You understand what I'm talking about. That's really an annuity, but it's annuitization. And one of the problems with that, Aaron, once you set that up, you cannot change it. So for instance, when my granddad took his pension, he had Hazel, his wife, as a 50% survivor, so he took less money, right? But guess who died first? Hazel. So Granddad actually lived for quite a while after Hazel's death and got less money. He was trying to insure for her, but it was a moot point. It didn't matter, and he could not change that election.
That's rough.
Annuitization, the problem with annuitization is kind of falling into that whole thing. Yeah, a lot of times there's not anything left at death. Plus, once you elect your option for your mailbox money, you cannot change that option. So in walks the modern day annuities that came out in the mid-90s, and the insurance companies got a little wise on this and said, let's give the people some flexibility. let's give them the opportunity to have an annuity pay out an income for the rest of their life. But let's say they don't live a long time, there would be a death benefit left to it could be even your children, Aaron. Does that sound a little more palatable, doesn't it?
Yeah, so they get something rather than nothing if somebody, I don't want to say unexpectedly dies because we all die, but, if they don't live as long as, people may think they're going to live or something.
Okay, good point. So let's go back through that. So let's say now you come to me and you go, Tony, I like this idea of a pension. I don't have a pension at work. I inherited $200,000. I want to buy an annuity. And what I want with that annuity, Tony, is when I retire, me and Jessica retire, I want that mailbox money you're talking about. You with me? Okay. So the only place you can get guaranteed income for life or mailbox money is annuity. So we put that in an annuity for Aaron. Wouldn't put the whole thing in there, folks. I'm just using an example. So in this case, we're going to purchase something called an income rider. Now, as we record this show in November of 2022, we have a lot of different companies we use. We'll be talking to JJ in our office in just a second about all the different annuities we use. But basically, what we would do, we would put that with an insurance company. We would shop the best rates for Aaron and Jessica to see which ones have the highest payout rate. So now let's say we run the numbers. I'm just pulling numbers out of the air, folks. And it shows that at age 62, at Aaron's age, if he invests this $200,000, listen, Aaron, on a guaranteed basis, let's say we're going to pay you $3,000 a month when you turn 62 for the rest of your life and for the rest of Jessica's life. You're like, what do you think?
Both of us? Yeah, I'm all for that.
Then you say, okay, that's fine, Tony. But what happens if I die? Jessica still gets the same money. And then what happens, Tony, if Jessica dies 2 years later? That's where these income annuities are pretty cool. Not that Jessica and you died early, excuse me.
No, I get you.
Yeah. But let's say there's a contract value of this annuity and it still has about, let's say, $180,000. Okay. That account value will go down as you draw more and more income out, but you didn't live that long. You didn't draw that much income out, right? You only lived a couple of years. So in that example, the $180,000 that's in what's called the contract value would be left by beneficiary. And let's say you left it to your 3 children. They would get that money immediately divided 3 ways.
Okay.
No penalties, no nothing. Pretty good, isn't it? Not bad. So at least you get back your principal, maybe plus some interest. Just depends on the contract, which is why, folks, again, met with a couple yesterday that was rushed into an annuity sale. Unfortunately, they got out of the thing because it was not right for them at all. But which is why, folks, if you're thinking about an annuity, bless your hearts, quit rushing out and buying the first annuity somebody pitches you. And in fact, be careful about putting all of your money in these long-term bonus products without at least getting a game plan and at least talking to somebody who's written about as many annuities as anybody in the country at Tony Walker Financial. So here's what I would suggest first of all. We're getting ready to go talk to JJ in just a second in our Bowling Green office, but if you're really trying to learn about mailbox money, about annuities, we have 2 wonderful brochures that I wrote on the subject. They're absolutely free of charge. And you can get them in one of 2 ways. First, if you're comfortable downloading things from the internet, the first one is called Annuities Made Easy and Mailbox Money Made Easy. And all you do, you go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, TonyWalkerFinancial.com, click on the download section, and you can get those absolutely free. Now, some of you are not comfortable downloading stuff off the internet. I got you on that. If you just want to order these free booklets, they're absolutely free. I promise you we will not hound you or bug you to death or show up at your doorstep. All you got to do is call 270-843-9380, 270-843-9380, and just tell them when you call that you would like the free booklets, Annuities Made Easy, and Mailbox Money Made Easy. If you do call after hours, we have an answering service, folks. You're going to have to leave your name, full mailing address, and phone number so we can follow up with you, make sure we got everything confirmed, and mail you these booklets. Okay, when we return, I'm going to share with you an interesting Tony in the Trenches, something that a famed investor by the name of Warren Buffett had to say about this particular investment and why mailbox money for savers fits perfectly with the response of what Mr. Buffett has to say. I'm Tony Walker. You're listening to The Worry-Free Retirement. Myself and America's favorite financial sidekick will be back in just a second. Have you recently retired, been laid off, or offered a pension buyout? Has the company you work for moved, been acquired, or closed its doors forever? And finally, do you have a 401k with a previous employer you'd like to move to safer territory? Then take advantage of this opportunity to move your 401k or lump sum pension to Tony Walker Financial. Let's meet in person to discuss your retirement options. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to schedule your free, no obligation appointment. Let us help you today. With the uncertainty of the stock market, now may be the best time to consider moving your 401k to safer territory. To talk to me at no cost or obligation, simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Good morning, JJ.
Good morning, Tony.
So JJ, tell us briefly your work history there at Tony Walker Financial and of course your role with us.
Sure. So I come from a banking background. I've been with Tony Walker Financial about 3 years now, and my official title is Annuity New Business Administrator.
Oh, sounds good. Love it. Okay, so as far as the number of annuities we do, year to date, I know we're recording this show on November 1st, 2022. Where are we in terms of the number of annuities we have written so far this year?
We have written around 500 annuities, totaling around $66 million year to date.
Oh, wow. And you and Connie Fortney, who head up the annuity department, just doing such a marvelous job. Okay, as fiduciaries, which we are, we like to say there's no one size fits all when it comes to annuities. So how do we prove that we are doing just that for our clients and prospective clients versus maybe some of the annuity peddlers we run into out there?
Tony, we represent around 6 to 8 different annuity companies. They offer around probably 20 different products. Each person's situation is different. Each individual is different. So we try to make sure that each person is fit with their perfect annuity for their unique circumstances.
Oh, well said, JJ. And we certainly appreciate all you're doing. I didn't realize we'd written that many annuities this year. So again, kudos to you and Connie Fortney and all the gang there at Tony Walker Financial that puts all these wonderful income plans together, our Schwab department. It really does take a team effort. We just thank you so much for your efforts.
Thank you, Tony. It's a pleasure.
You're welcome.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Worry-Free Retirement. I am America's favorite financial sidekick, Mr. Aaron Ornder, and I just wanted to remind everybody, folks, if you want to catch past episodes of the Worry-Free Retirement, or if you just want to catch like a little snippet or a little clip from a show, or just maybe an interview, or one of these interviews we're doing with the Bowling Green office, folks, that's not a problem at all. All you got to do is go to youtube.com. That's youtube.com. And right there in the search bar, you just click or type in Tony Walker Financial. Just click search and you're going to get to our page. You'll see Tony's smiling face right there. Click on that and you're going to find all types of video content. Now, Tony, I've got a question for you. We were in the commercial break and, we just talked in the previous segment talking about, if I die, my annuity goes to Jess. If Jess passes away, depending on how much is in there, they're going to cut it all 3 ways between my 3 kids. Now, the question that popped in my head during the commercial break is, what about taxes? Do my kids have to pay taxes on that? Do they have to, does Uncle Sam get a chunk of that as well? Does my 4th kid, Uncle Sam, get a chunk of that as well? So that was a question I had for you. I just wanted to see if you could take a minute and talk about that.
Yeah, that's a good question. There's a lot of different components to that question. Let's stay with how you got the money in the first place. So let's say you inherited that original $200,000, Aaron. That's called your cost basis. You don't have any taxes on it because it was inherited money. But then it grows to, let's say it's worth $300,000 one day. All right. So it's grown by $100,000. You with me?
Okay. Since
an annuity is tax deferred, nobody owes taxes on that money until you start drawing it out. Let's say you never even drew any income. Let's just say you and Jessica were getting ready to draw the money out. It's worth $300,000 and you both die at the same time.
Okay.
Now the $300,000 is divided 3 ways to the children. That's $100,000 per child. Now they have 5 years to make up their mind what they're going to do, but in that example, they're going to have to pay taxes on that money within 5 years, and it's divided evenly. So the $100,000 divided by 3 is roughly $33,000. They're going to have to claim income taxes, each child, on $33,000 and pay taxes on it. So the gain in that example is taxed at ordinary income. So folks, you got to realize that we have a lot of death claims we have to deal with because of our aging population at Tony Walker Financial. And a lot of these annuities, they're called after-tax annuities. They're not money that came from a 401k or whatever. That's a totally different type of taxation. When you inherit this money, as Aaron's asking, you got to remember there's a lot of this money could be subject to ordinary income taxes, not capital gains, ordinary income taxes. So it can be a big hit. Again, if you're thinking about buying an annuity, having an annuity, maybe you're one of those that just received an inheritance and you found that you got a bunch of annuities you inherited, give us a call at Tony Walker Financial or just log on at TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Our phone number is 877-499-9255, 877-499-WALK. Okay, Aaron, I got to share this with you. At one of our client dinners, one of our clients, I mean, bless her heart, she was like almost 80 years old, and she was real serious. She goes, Tony, do you mind talking about Bitcoin on TV? And I just laughed about it. I thought, yes, ma'am, I'll have something to say about Bitcoin. So it was interesting. Bitcoin, folks, is basically virtual currency and fiat money and all this stuff. You can read all about it. But basically, it's, I call it funny money. Bitcoin, as Warren Buffett says in this particular article that came out in CNBC, Buffett says this. Of course, if you don't know who Warren Buffett is, he's a famed value investor. But he says, I wouldn't buy all of the Bitcoin in the world for $25. Do you know why he said that, Aaron? I love this line. He said I wouldn't buy it because it doesn't produce anything. Now, let that sink. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I mean, here's one of the world famous investors, and he's boiled down investing to that one-liner. In other words, let's take the reciprocal of that. He's only going to buy things that produce something. And that kind of makes sense, don't you think?
Okay.
So let's talk about annuities, which now Warren Buffett probably could care less about annuities. He's more into businesses and farmland and properties that are generating income, etc. But let's think about annuities. What do annuities produce? Well, they produce protection. They produce potential growth. Did you realize right now, Aaron, and this is on a guaranteed basis, and folks, these rates change as we record this show on November 1st, 2022, we can get a 5-year contract, annuity, Aaron, 5 years. After 5 years, you can do anything you want with it. You're only tied in it for 5 years. But the insurance company is guaranteeing 5% interest every year. That's guaranteed. That's pretty high.
That's pretty good, 5%.
Yeah, so I had an elderly lady in yesterday, needing more income. We're going to put $200,000 in an annuity. We're going to pay her $10,000 a year. We're going to do it monthly for the next 5 years guaranteed. And her principal's protected. There's no fees. If she were to die, the full amount goes to the grandkids. You want to leave the grandkids? This is awesome. No risk. So the reason I love annuities is because they produce protection, potential growth, and more importantly, income. So I got to ask a question. If you're like me, if you're a saver, if you're okay taking some risk, but for the most part, you want a good majority of your money protected, especially I run into this with people who are retired or nearing retirement. Folks, I mean, who wants to take a bunch of risk and risk having to go back to work in retirement because your account's down 30 or 40%? Might I invite you to consider annuities? And if you're going to consider annuities, why not consider purchasing annuities and working with a firm that is so well adept at understanding these products, who works with multiple companies, multiple products. As fiduciaries, we're going to make sure we try to fit the annuity that's right for you. So here's my suggestion. If you're retired, retiring soon, maybe just received an inheritance, money languishing at the bank, lump sum pension you're eligible for, why don't you do this? Log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Click on that Let's Get Started. What we're going to do is set up a free 10-minute fiduciary phone call with myself, the owner of the company. We'll talk for a few minutes, and if it warrants, if I think I can help you, we're going to meet in person at no cost or obligation in either our Bowling Green, Louisville, or Lexington, Kentucky offices. So do it now, TonyWalkerFinancial.com, or just give us a call, 270-843-9380, 270-843-9380. Well, we hope you've enjoyed this series on annuities and why I love them, and you should too. So you remember, between now and the next time we talk, if all else fails, you be worry-free. Make it a good one.